So this video is just a demonstration to show how to make a vehicle that's a little bit different in scale than the example, and how to remove the antennas if you don't want them. This uses the Monster Jeep game, which was an example of spawning cosmetic wheels rather than having to have all four of your wheels match. So you only need to use this example game if you want to make a vehicle that has unusual wheels. Just as usual, we're going to start with the wheels. So this is the wheel art we want to use this time, and we want to use it at the same scale it is here. Scale is another word for size. If we click on one of these wheels and we open the transform section of the entity panel, we'll see that it's set to a scale of 1. These wheels over here that I used in the Monster Jeep are set to a scale of 1.25. Let's adjust the scale of these two wheels because we don't want them oversized. We just want them scaled to 1. You can do that here in the scale section. Delete the numbers and type 1 there. By default, it will change all 3 numbers. Now we're going to copy the art from here. We're going to hit copy and we're going to paste it onto our wheel. If we don't want to paste the art the way that I just did, we could also search for it. So on the second wheel, let's do it that way. We'll go here, we'll type airport. So now we have 2 wheels that are the size we want them, but we need them to be templates. A template is kind of a copy of a game object that you could spawn through a script or pull out to reuse again later. So if we click on this wheel and we open the entity section, we'll see that this is actually already a template because it was used by the other car. But we're going to want our own copy of it with its own name just for this airport vehicle. So we're going to go up here and we're going to type airport vehicle. We'll just close the tags since we don't need to look at them right now. Next, we're going to click unlink from template. Now there should be no information down in the template section. And then we're going to hit new template. Now we have a brand new template of this wheel that we've just made that we can reference. So we have to do the same one over in this one. First, we should name it. Then we should hit unlink from template. And then hit new template. Okay, the wheels are done. Next, we need to do the body. So I've already brought in this body art so that we could look at it for reference and compare it to this one. So if we take a look at this body, let's stop the game. You'll see when you stop the game, the body just sits here. It has no wheels on it, no antennas. That's because the wheels and antennas are being attached by these scripts. This one's attaching an antenna. This one's attaching an antenna. This one's attaching a wheel, 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 wheel. We already know we don't want the antennas, so let's just use the little trash can icon here that comes up when we hover on it to remove the antennas, because we don't want those. The next thing to look at is the scale of these 2 vehicles. The scale that we want is just 1. We look at the transform here, but this object is scaled to 1.6. So we're gonna change the scale to 1. Okay, so now it's a little cute monster car. The next thing we're gonna need is to put the art we actually want on it. So again, I'm just gonna copy the art and paste it on. To paste on a new voxel component, you can go up here and hit paste as new, and then it'll add a new thing to it. Okay, so we have all of our art here and we're the right size. Next, we have to deal with the wheels. So if we hit play, you see we don't have the antennas anymore because we deleted them, but our wheels are a little bit crazy because they're the old wheels from the monster truck. So hit stop again and put in the wheels that you've made. So in this case, we've got this airport vehicle back wheel, And another back wheel. What I'm selecting right now are the templates that we just made over there. Okay, we're doing pretty good. We've got wheels on, although they're not positioned correctly. So the positioning for these wheels, because they're being spawned by these scripts, is done in these scripts here. If I move where these wheels appear and I want to see how they've moved, I'm going to have to start the game to respawn the wheels. We're going to take the wheel and move it to like roughly where we think it should be. So maybe it looks good here. Then we're going to open its transform component and we're going to note down the numbers that it says here. And now I'm going to use that. We're going to hit stop again. And I'm going to put those numbers into my script here. So it looks like this one needs to be at negative 7.22, 7.6, negative 18.22. You can round these to like 2 decimal places. That'll be enough. All right, so when I hit play now, that wheel is in the correct spot. Okay, so next we're going to need to repeat the same steps for the other 3 wheels. Position them where we want them to go, note down the numbers that those positions are, and then change the script so it has the correct positions. So as I was positioning the wheels there, I noticed that one of the pieces of wheel art wasn't perfectly centered on its pivot. I'll quickly open the voxel editor to show this. So if you're in the voxel editor, the pivot of an object is kind of its starting point or its origin or its center. And what it is this middle of this crosshair thing in the center of the thing. That's the origin or the pivot point of your voxel object. That's often important for when we're spawning and using the object. In the case of a wheel, we would want the wheel to be built like this so that crosshair was right in the middle of it. In most cases, we'd probably build it so it would roll forward in the direction of this arrow. So we'd probably build it like this so that it would roll around. The sort of center point of the line is running directly through the middle of my wheel, so my wheel would roll around that point. But if your art isn't made like this, or if the script that you're using is looking for an object oriented a little different way, sometimes you can fix it with the voxel offsets of the object itself, and that's what I just did on this other wheel. Here in the case of this wheel, I was noticing that as I was trying to position it, sometimes when I hit play, it looked like it was in a slightly different spot, and that made me realize that it was probably not perfectly centered. This manipulation tool will be lined up with the pivot of the object. Since the object didn't seem like it was centered on its pivot, I looked at it in this view to sort of determine what was wrong. It was like this, which didn't... This seems like it's lined up with the bottom of this voxel instead of being in the middle here, which didn't seem right to me. So I just changed the offset by -1 to make that pivot look like it's sitting more in the middle of the tire. And then when I was finished that change, I pushed the change to the template with this button here. Now we need a template of this object. As before, we don't want it linked to the old template, so the first thing we're going to do is just hit unlink from template. Then we're going to name it something we'll recognize and hit new template. The sort of final thing that we need to do is get this object spawning the new car. Now there's a few tricks because in this case, unlike in the original Jeep, we're spawning the wheels already with the body. But if we notice on this object here, if we go into the car networked script, it's still looking for a wheel template. So you can see that I've just made an invisible wheel that's just a single cube, and I have that hooked up here. So you can just leave that. If this is the scene you're working in, you don't need to do anything. You can just use my invisible cube. So for this part, stop the game, click the car, open DBB Simple Car Networked, scroll way down to where you set the body, and pick the new body that we've just made. Then hit play and test if it worked. Now, you'll notice the car got giant. This doesn't have to be the case, so we're going to do a couple things. So to fix the scale of the car so that it's what we see here, we're going to need to do two things. One, we're going to click on the car, go up to its transform properties, and set the local scale from 1.6 to 1. The other thing we're going to do is we're going to go down into the Simple Car Network script, and we're going to click Use Body Scale. So now if we hit play, the car should look the correct size. And we can test it. This is an adorable car. It looks like we're kind of floating up in the air a bit, so we probably need to adjust a few little things. I'm gonna try adjusting the ride height a little bit, and I'm gonna try moving the driver's seat back a little, and I'm gonna shut off the passenger seats because they wouldn't work with this kind of car. The same way that we used the position during play mode of the wheel to get the values that it should be set off for the offset, we can do the same thing with the driver. So we can adjust the driver till they look like they're sitting at the steering wheel, and then we can note down these positions here and use them to put in the script. So if we hit stop, I wrote down the positions that I saw the driver at, so now I'm going to change that here. We'll go test it again. Now I'm sitting in the car. So the final step is to make this one a template. Again, we want to unlink from template to break the old connection. Then we want to change the name. Hit new template. And then on our parking sign, we'll change it back to a regular parking sign since this one's not a Monster Jeep. And we'll rename it. And we'll change it to Airport Vehicle Drivable. That's the one we just made. And let's give the game a test. Hope this helps.